Okay, so some of you guys have seen carving like this where we do a face carving and it's cut off the corner of a block. So you would start with a square block and then you would cut it in half, and then this becomes the front of it. This is the nose and the plane of the face. So in order to cut this, we need a special jig, and I had this one that I've used. And basically, it's kind of crude. I just clamped it onto the saw, but it does do the job. It cuts the block in half. But what I wanted to do was make a better one. So I thought I'd just show you what I was going to do here as I was working. So one of the things I wanted to do to improve it was I wanted to have it slide in this groove, so that way it would always be lined up parallel to this, so that the cut would go through the blade the way I wanted to. So I started out, I made a hardwood strip that covers most of it. Doesn't matter that it's the whole length. It could be the full length of the table, but it really doesn't matter. But it just has to be so that it'll clear the top of the table, just a little shy of it, and just fit in there fairly snugly. And what I'm going to do is I have this could be a piece of plywood, it could be a piece of pine, which is what I'm using here, and this is just a piece of 1 by 10, and it's about 13 and a half. It just happened to be laying around. This is 14 and a quarter, so that's fine. I just want it to be from here and go just a little bit past the blade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by, this is going to work just about to the edge of the groove here, and that centers it. So what I'm going to do, I marked right here, I marked a line back about 3/4, because I'm going to have a piece that's going to go on the front of my bandsaw here. Okay, you can see that. I have 2 screw threaded holes here. So what you could do is when you have this on, you could just clamp it to the table, but I wanted to have a strip that I could put a screw, and I can just slide this in the groove. It'll be right where I want to put 2 screws and it'll stay steady, and then I can cut my stock. So I had to make sure that this piece was a little bit longer than where my 2 hole centers are. So the way I'm going to start is by attaching this strip to the edge of my block. Alright, so it's going to go right here behind my line. So just going to put a little bit of glue on it. Get nice and even with the edge. That's good. And then it's only 5/16, so I just have a couple of small little 1/2-inch screws here. Okay, so that's good for that. So I have my little guide piece screwed on the bottom here, glued on, and I just put I'm temporarily clamping a stop on here because I don't want to go too far and I want to cut this in half. So all I do, I pop this in the groove. That's it. Okay, now when each time I use this jig, it'll just line up perfectly because I have this little guide block in there. So the next thing I want to do is attach this piece on here. So I cut a piece that's about 2 inches, and that's enough to catch the holes here on either side. Okay, so now I have this block, and it's screwed on with my threaded bolts into the table. I'm going to take one out so I can slide my jig into place, and I'll screw this in. Okay. So now my jig is firmly in place because it's screwed on here. So when I want to take it off, I just simply remove these two screws. Okay, and it slides right off. Now all I have to do is mount the V part here that's going to be set at a 90-degree angle. Okay, so I have to do 2 blocks, and then I have to do some braces, 45-degree angle braces that'll go on there. The next part I did was to make the two braces. So what I did was I cut some angle blocks with a 45-degree angle. Okay, and these are about 2 3/8 or so. They could be 3 inches, 4 inches, whatever you want to make. And so I put the base plate here in the vise just to hold on to it. And I made a spacer block. Okay, and this is going to go from one edge to the center of the saw cut that I made. And here, from here down, is just a line that I scribed for myself just to line things up. So what I'm going to do is I'll take one of these and I put it right up against the spacer. And I'm going to screw it in. Okay. And I move my spacer down. And screw in the other one. Since my saw kerf and the side of my base plate here are parallel, that this is going to be parallel. Now remember, this isn't sliding through the saw, the work is going to slide through, so it doesn't really matter too much that it's perfectly lined up, but I get it pretty straight. What really matters here is that when I have the 2 blocks in place, that I get a good 90-degree angle there, and that's good. Pretty snug. Okay, and if you want, you can put a little glue on there, but it's not going anywhere. Okay, and I check my angle here, and that is good. I think I need a longer screw. Okay, so now I'm ready to put this guy into action here. So all I do is I'm going to start with my jig in the groove here, and I'll turn on the saw. And this is really for peace of mind, because now I can cut my work and not have to worry about it. Now one last thing I did was I made a little quick, looks kind of like a tuning fork. It's a little push stick, so I can push through here and I don't have to worry about my fingers. So let me just demonstrate how this thing works. You can see the block fits in there perfectly. Okay, and the jig is secured. It's not going anywhere. I might want to bring that down a little bit. Okay. So that's all there is to this thing. It's really not a difficult project, but it sure saves a lot of work, and it does a tricky job easily. Cutting a block on a corner like that, you certainly can't do it freehand, so this makes it easy. If you don't want to tap it into if you don't have the place to put the screws in here, of course you can always just clamp this to your tabletop on either side of the rails here, and that'll work fine. But the main feature is having a stop block here and some sort of guide in your little guide track there to keep it even. So that'll give you consistent and safe results, I think, many times. Even a large block, even a 6x6 block would still work fine in this. So until next time, enjoy your carving and stay safe.